So next up, we have Rob Gonen. He's the founder and CEO of Closed Loop Partners. It's a New York-based investment firm comprised of venture capital, growth equity, private equity, and project finance, focused on building the circular economy. Over to you, Ron.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for having me today. I'm going to be using my time today to talk about the circular economy and investment opportunities in the circular economy. So by way of background, I'm the CEO and founder of Closed Loop Partners. The firm was founded in 2014. We are an investment firm and innovation center focused on building out the circular economy. The way we're structured is that we have 4 asset classes: a early stage venture fund, a credit fund, a project finance fund, and a PE fund. And then our innovation center, which is the Center for the Circular Economy. And that type of structure enables us to invest anywhere along the growth trajectory of a solution. So we're able to identify bottlenecks, identify solutions, and then apply the right form of capital towards that solution. By way of background in terms of what we mean by the circular economy, the way products have been manufactured for the past 75 years, even going back further to the Industrial Revolution, but in terms of it being a core part of our economy, this linear manufacturing system started about 75 years ago, post-World War II, where we began to extract natural resources, oil and gas, mining for metals, wood for timber. We would use that commodity in the design of a product for one-time usage. We would use that product once and then dispose of it. Hopefully it's being recycled. Most cases in the United States is being sent to landfill. In many other parts of the world, it's ending up in nature. And that's a linear system that we've been operating under for the past 75 years. And while that type of system was definitely in the financial best interest of the extractive industry, so oil and gas, mining, timber, and the landfill industries, effectively every time a consumer products company wanted to manufacture something, anytime you bought something, you're paying for the cost of that extracted resource in your product. And then you as a taxpayer are paying for the disposal of it in a landfill. So that type of linear system definitely was in the best interest of the extractive industries and landfill industries, but it wasn't in the best financial interest of consumer products companies, retailers, consumers, taxpayers, or municipalities. And so the circular economy is an economic system that focuses on investing in material science, the development of new types of materials that don't require natural resource extraction, or a reliance on recycled commodities, effectively maintaining commodities within the system to manufacture the products and packaging that we use, and product design to ensure that the way products are being designed is for them to be able to be used multiple times, or to be easily recycled, or to be easily fixed. And if you can build that type of system where you're no longer dependent on natural resource extraction for manufacturing or on landfills for disposal, you're going to significantly reduce costs for consumer goods companies and for municipalities. And the beneficiaries of that will be consumers and taxpayers. They're one and the same, but you benefit twice over. So that's a brief overview of the linear economy and where we see huge opportunity in the circular economy. I'll take a few minutes now and give you a few examples of what we mean by investments in the circular economy, and I'll do it through the lens of our different funds in our innovation center. So first, on the venture side, I'll give you 3 examples in different sectors. The sectors we focus on are consumer products and packaging, food and ag, fashion and apparel, and electronics. The first example I'll give you is a company called Home Biogas, which is headquartered in Israel. Home Biogas is the first company to develop a household-sized anaerobic digester. Anaerobic digesters convert food waste into gas. Many cities already have large-scale anaerobic digesters for their wastewater treatment facilities. They're starting to build large-scale anaerobic digesters for food waste. but no one's figured out how to bring that technology down to the appliance level for a household or a commercial business like a restaurant. Home biogas has been able to do that, and that enables us to process food waste without worrying about massive infrastructure development of large-scale digesters or compost facilities, or the transportation costs of food waste. Most importantly, if you think about emerging markets where you have major issues related to sanitation, related to access to energy, and then the energy that you're able to get access to is oftentimes very pollutive. When you have something like a home biogas system that you can provide to families in Africa or South America or Southeast Asia, you've now provided a solution for health, sanitation, and clean energy in one affordable system. So that's one example of what we view as a circular economy investment out of our venture fund. Another example is a company called Gramo. It's Algramo. It's a company that is headquartered in Chile, and Gramo has developed a reusable packaging system where you get your Gramo container for your household cleaning products. There's a chip embedded in the Gramo container that's connected to your mobile phone. And so when you go to the store, so Walmart in Chile, for instance, has Gramo systems, and you put your reusable container into the system on your mobile phone, you can decide how much you want to buy at that moment in time. They also have a mobile system that can go into different villages. So now with an Gramo system, you can actually get rid of a lot of the plastic packaging that's out there. Additionally, you enable people, especially at the lower income level of the market, to be able to choose the specific amount of cleaning product that they need at that moment in time. So that's another example of a circular economy investment at an early stage. A third investment that I'll mention is a company called Mori, M-O-R-I, which is a company that came out of MIT that has developed a odorless and tasteless silk-based protein that is sprayed on fruits, vegetables, and meats that creates an oxidization barrier to eliminate spoilage. So that type of solution is a perfect example of how you get rid of a lot of the thin plastic wrapping and packaging around produce to try to reduce spoilage. You can now achieve the same type of freshness, but avoid a lot of the plastic packaging that goes into the supply chain. So that's an example on the innovation side of what we've done from an investment standpoint. On the infrastructure side, we've financed recycling facilities. So if there's anyone dialing in from Chicago, we financed Lakeshore Recycling Systems, which has the recycling facility in Chicago. If you're from Minneapolis, we've done Eureka, which is the company that has the recycling contract and facility for Minneapolis as an example. But we also finance infrastructure across the supply chain. So if you're from Southern California, we finance the building of Our Planet Earth's facility, which is a bottle-to-bottle plastics recycling facility. So the recycled plastic bottles come in, they get recycled on site, and a new plastic bottle comes out. We finance the manufacturing facility for Temper Pack, which is a fiber-based e-commerce package for the cold chain that's able to keep products cold without any of the harmful plastic packaging that you usually get in it. So that's an example of what we do on the infrastructure side. And then on the PE fund side, an example is Balcones Resources, which we acquired 2 years ago, which is the largest privately held recycling company in the southern United States. So we service Austin, Texas. If any of you are from Austin, we have the recycling contract for Austin, Dallas, Little Rock, and Sarasota, Florida. So that's some innovations as well as some infrastructure that we've invested in out of the circular economy. And then our innovation center, the Center for the Circular Economy, works on some of the most challenging bottlenecks. So as an example, we did a major project with Starbucks and McDonald's and a number of the other companies in the coffee space around the coffee cup, which was neither recyclable, compostable, or reusable when Starbucks and McDonald's approached us. And so we started developing solutions that could be incubated and scaled that would enable Starbucks and McDonald's and other coffee providers to either provide a recyclable cup or compostable cup, or even better, a reusable cup systems. Some of you may have seen Starbucks just recently started piloting one of those reusable cup systems in the Pacific Northwest. Another project that our Center for the Circular Economy is working on is a project on the retail bag for Target, Kroger, CVS, Meijer supermarkets, a number of the major retailers, where they realize that they need to transition away from plastic bags, but they also don't want a hodgepodge of solutions out there that aren't cost effective because they're not at scale or confusing to the consumer. So our Center for the Circular Economy is working with all of those major retailers to try to standardize a solution and alternative to plastic bags. So that's an overview of what the circular economy is, how we've invested in the circular economy. And the last thing I mentioned is one of the things that I'm most excited about is you're seeing a lot of major brands recognize that the circular economy is a great way for them to meet their sustainability goals while also reducing costs, because they're getting rid of waste and packaging along their supply chain. Additionally, if you can keep customers in a material loop, you're also keeping them in a relationship loop, which also builds values for the brands. And so that's one thing that I've always looked for professionally, is ways to connect and drive an intersection between maximizing returns and impact. And I think the circular economy does a great job of that. So I'll stop there in terms of the presentation on the circular economy and investment opportunities, and see if there's any questions that anybody has.
Great. Yeah, plenty of questions. No shortages there. I guess just to start things off, just talk a little bit about impact investing. I think a lot of times people look at the space and they think of concessionary returns. Are concessionary returns sort of the enemy of scalability? And what are the investments that you're looking at that are market rate of return or better?
Well, our funds are market rate funds. I've always been a big believer in the way you maximize returns and you reduce risk is by actually focusing on impact. I think that a hoax has been perpetrated on us for decades now that somehow greed is good and you maximize returns by ignoring the interest of all stakeholders and just focus on the bottom line. The data shows that what that actually results in is, I'm going to take people back 20 years, but what that results in are things like Enron, Tyco, WorldCom, the housing crisis, so on and so forth. What we have a tendency to do is look at those as isolated incidents, as opposed to interconnected parts of a system that has not prized transparency or making sure that you have validation from multiple stakeholders. You're seeing that today in the issues that ExxonMobil is having with its future and its stock prices. It wasn't listening to its shareholders. It wasn't listening to the communities that it operates in. And now it's almost too late for that business to figure out what it's going to do next. So personally, I've always viewed the way to maximize returns is by focusing on impact. And fortunately, our funds have all to date performed very well. Great.
Next question here. Question on highest and best use for recycling and the logic behind it. He uses an example that's in highest and best use, recycled paper is used to make more paper. And that doesn't seem to make sense when there are other valuable uses out there. And obviously the goal is to use less paper in the future. Any thoughts on that?
Well, we have a period model. So the best thing to start with is how you're designing the product and move away from legacy systems of this is how it's been done for 20 years or 50 years or 100 years. So first is to start with product design and think about how can I provide the customer with the product or their service that they're looking for with the least amount of material as possible. Then the material that you're going to use, are you able to, through material science, use a non-extractive resource? So for instance, we have another company based in Israel called Algaing that has developed what feels like a high performance cotton, but it's actually made from industrially grown algae in the Negev desert in Israel. So if you think about cotton is a chemically intensive, water intensive, energy intensive crop that needs a lot of land in politically unstable parts of the world. So if you're in the fashion and apparel space, the first thing you should be thinking about is rather than how can we recycle all of this cotton or polyester, is can we come up with new material types that don't require that amount of pollution and water and energy use. So that's kind of the next step. The third step is if you are using an extractive resource to manufacture, which today it's still a requirement, that's the reality of our lives, is making sure that it's designed in such a way where it's easily to recycle and that it's got value. And what I mean by easy to recycle is recycling facilities want single commodity type material. So I've had product designers show me things that they think are super sustainable and they're sincere in their design aspiration, but what they've done is a glass jar with metal bottom, plastic lid. And they're like, all three are recyclable. It's like, that's not how recycling facilities work. What recycling facilities want are single type plastic. So either PET or HDPE products coming in, or just metal, or just paper. It makes it much easier to sort and bale and get it out to those markets. So a little bit of a complex and detailed answer to a very important question. But there's a pyramid that we look at in terms of achieving maximum circularity and design.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Let's see. One question I had is, obviously, probably the main way you generate impact is by funneling capital into the circular economy, and kind of bringing some of these investment opportunities to the light of day. But you can also generate impact through engagement. So, what role do you want to play engaging with, let's say, the Coca-Colas and big consumer product companies of the world, and also talk about engagement with governments?
Sure. Well, let me start with the engagement with government, because one of the major challenges in the US when it comes to waste is that it's not priced properly. And that was intentional. And it was a nefarious intent. It was designed this way to ensure that companies could continue to just mass produce product and just get us to buy more and more stuff. If you look at, if you're interested in this topic specifically, I have a book that came out recently called The Waste-Free World. And one of the things that I touch on in the waste-free world is that if you look at marketing pre-World War II, it focused on two things. Quality was the highest form of status in our society, not quantity. It had there was no concept of just buy more stuff. Everything was focused on what's the quality of the product you're buying. And number two, the marketing messages we received were focused on recycling as a patriotic duty, because natural resource extraction was expensive or was in regions of the world that we didn't have influence. And so you actually saw a lot of messaging around recycling is patriotic. Post-World War II, through the influence of certain industries, government started telling us the highest form of status in America, or as an American, is you got to get more stuff. You just got to get more stuff, and they kind of pushed recycling aside. And so it's very important that the government change its messaging back to that, number one. Number two is we ended up developing a system really to support these industries where the cost of waste disposal was made to seem free. We put our garbage out, it disappears, great. We don't, did it cost me money? I don't know, I just put it out. In reality, municipalities use billions and billions of our tax dollars every year to dispose of our waste in landfill. It's just intentionally buried in our tax bill. And what we need to move towards is waste as a utility similar to electricity and water, where if you use very little electricity or very conscious about the electricity user, you're very conscious about the water you use, and I'm not, you would never expect to cover my costs. Well, when it comes to waste, if you recycle, you're saving your neighbors and neighborhood and community and city money. That is material. Let's put aside the environmental opportunities of recycling for a moment, which are really, really valuable, but let's put that aside for a moment. When you recycle, from pure economic terms, you are avoiding the cost of taxpayer dollars being used to send material to landfill. It's really important for everyone in this meeting to understand that, and everyone in the United States to understand that waste is not free. It is a major cost. And so we need to change our system so that waste is priced as a utility and you pay for whatever you throw out. Recycling should be free. Waste is whatever it costs to send it to the landfill. That would be the most important thing the government could do.
All right, great. Well, we're going to have to leave it there, Ron. That was tremendously interesting, though. So thanks for your time, and hope to see you again soon.
All right, glad to be here.
All right, great.